Honorable Minister. I love the smile, Honorable Minister. Can they please, because men nale mokhutshwane ole. Ke kopa hela because nka itsurwa ga go pele ma'am. Aba ka pusha, yes. Yes. Much better. Usiame, ma'am. Thank you very much. I don't know gore ke shota ka mang baetso. Ke kopile all members to switch on. I have a montage here that I can see Chief Whip, I can see everyone.
Thank you very much.
Recording in progress.
We're ready to start. No, thank you very much, and greetings to everyone. And in keeping with our tradition, I will now bow to my right and bow to my left. And having done so, I will request delegates to observe a moment of silence for prayer or meditation. Thank you very much. Just a reminder that the rules and processes apply. And before we proceed, I would like to make members aware of the following: that the virtual sitting constitutes a sitting of the National Council of Provinces, that the place of the sitting is deemed to be Cape Town, where the seat of the National Council of Provinces is, that delegates in the virtual sitting enjoy the same powers and privileges that apply in a sitting of the National Council of Provinces. That for the purposes of the quorum, all delegates who are logged on to the virtual platform shall be considered present. That delegates must always switch on their videos whilst they're speaking. That delegates should ensure that the microphones on their gadgets are muted and must always remain muted unless you have permission to speak. That the interpretation facility is active, and that any delegate who wishes to speak must use the raise your hand function or icon. Honorable delegates, I've been informed that there will be no notices of motion or motions without notice. So, honorable delegates, before we proceed to the subject for discussion, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, and the Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, special delegates, as well as SALGA representatives to the House. We shall now proceed to the subject for discussion, debate on the Heritage Month, united in our diversity and rich cultural heritage, the path to constructing a non-racial, non-sexist, united, and a prosperous democratic society. I now call on Honorable E.N. Mthethwa, the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, to open the debate. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. To the Minister in the Presidency, Minister Ncop, the Chief Whip of Ncop, members of the Executive Councils who are here with us, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, I extend my warmest greetings to all of you present in this gathering. we have colleagues converged on these platforms, not because of our own choosing, but because of the circumstances posed on us by the outbreak of the deadly coronavirus, also known as COVID-19. The outbreak has far-reaching implications in every area of human endeavor, from education to health, sporting, to creative, from food security to poverty alleviation, from empowerment of women to social stability, et al. It is important for all of us to survive this scourge, that at all material times, we need to observe all the health protocols as outlined by the World Health Organization and our government through the Department of Health. Our country is also facing the second pandemic of gender-based violence and femicide that has resulted in the physical abuse and death of so many of our mothers, of our sisters, of partners, and daughters of our country at the hands of men, most of whom are known to the victims. Our country had immense challenges for a number of years before coronavirus. This pandemic has worsened the challenges. Now, Chair, let me turn to the issue at hand, the debate on the contribution of our heritage towards achieving our goal of a united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and prosperous society. This debate takes place in the year that the African Union has declared as the year for arts, culture, and heritage, levers for building the Africa we want. This is consistent with the aspiration 5, which states, amongst others, that Africa with a strong cultural identity, common heritage, values, and ethics. Our point of departure. The central tenet of our continuing struggle is, and has to be, to end the conditions that describes millions of our people, both at home, across the continent, and the diaspora as the wretched of the earth, daily burdened and crushed by the most intolerable and dehumanizing poverty. This is the heritage we want to leave behind for the generations to come. This year, as South Africans, we mark and celebrate the 150th years of the birth of 2 iconic figures in our country, the Ama Charlotte Maxeke and Baba Dr. Langalbalele John Dube, the founding president of the African National Congress and the founding mother of what is today is the ANC Women's League. And this is our heritage. In like manner, I need to remind all of us that it's also important to acknowledge that during this Heritage Month, we shall continue the celebrations of the 25th anniversary of the enactment of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa into law. The primary law of South Africa is also our heritage and our contribution to humanity's progress towards peace and social development. The South African government has urged all and sundry to celebrate the life and times of these 2 outstanding patrons, particularly Ma Charlotte Maxeke, hence, since this is her year. Memory and memorialization remain important avenues through which people individually and collectively remember and preserve their past and justify their present positions and aspirations in what has recently been conceptualized as social cohesion and nation building. The African Union has recognized the role that arts, culture, and heritage can play as catalyst for socio-economic development and integration of the African continent. Collectively, the past, with its heroic battles and our efforts to transform our society in the present, have set us on the path, this very path, that must bring into the world a new person, what Paulo Freire has called, and I quote, this new being no longer oppressor, no longer oppressed, but human in the process of achieving freedom. In the same vein, I'm reminded of the words of Ngugi wa Thiong'o in an essay in his book, Homecoming, where he says, and I quote, "Political and economic liberation are the essential condition for cultural liberation, for the true release of people's creative spirit and imagination. It is when people are involved in the active work of destroying an inhibitive social structure and building a new one that they begin to see themselves. They are born again," close quote. In a sense, arts and culture are the two sides of the same coin. The former constitute the artistic and collective production reflecting the cultural reality of a society, whereas the latter molds the society and constitutes the basis on which social and heritage capital is formed. Together, arts and culture are part and parcel of heritage of a country. As part of celebrating our heritage, South Africa celebrates Africa Month by declaring the month of May of every year as Africa Month, and is linked directly to and aims to support and strengthen Africa Day. I must say, Chair, that the AU itself has adopted this program as its flagship program for the AU. Consistent with this declaration, our government, through the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, is embarking on the following programs. The Africa Cultural Seasons, aimed at promoting regional integration and support efforts towards expanded trade of our cultural goods and services. As we said, the Africa Month program promotes Pan-Africanism and African cultural renaissance. 3, the promotion of use of African languages. The focus of indigenous languages in particular provides an opportunity to showcase and promote African languages and cultures across the continent of Africa. 4, commemoration of the 23rd March as the day of Kwito Kwanavale. It is our considered view that this day should be a day where the SADC region, Africa, and the globe pay homage to the Cuban forces and other progressive human beings who participated and contributed to accelerate the liberation of SADC region. 5, the popularization of Hashim Mbita project. This is the chronicle of the liberation struggles in the frontline states then as the Southern African development communities now. 6, the commemoration of the 60th anniversary of Chief Albert Luthuli winning the Nobel Peace Prize for the whole of the continent, the first African to win the Nobel Peace Prize in 1961, 60 years later today. We shall utilize all our platforms to promote the AU institution and its programs towards attainment of its vision of an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa driven by its own citizens and representing a dynamic force in the global arena. And I also want to say that if we indeed want to see this united, non-racial, non-sexist, and prosperous South Africa, we cannot, Chair, continue to have in the public spaces the historically oppressed majority continuing to be a cultural minority. Therefore, the issue of transformation of the heritage landscape becomes important for us, so that whoever comes to our country will understand that the majority of the people in this country have a space in their own land. So it is within this context of building and strengthening commonalities that the current initiatives of celebrating our heritage is aimed at pursuing the agenda set out by our predecessors. And I must say, Chair, that part of our heritage and part of our culture is a culture for resistance, is a culture for liberation. And therefore, it is our duty to preserve those institutions and those centers which are a repository of this heritage. It is against this backdrop that we continue to urge, for instance, one of the quintessential cultural heritage sites, those who manage it, which is Lily's Leaf, to please account for 8 million rands, which we gave them. And the government cannot save Lily's Leaf precisely because they have not accounted for that money. If they account for it, we'll be able to preserve this very important historical epicenter of the struggle of the people of this country. The story of the continent, Chair, we have done and engaged in so many programs, and we still urge our communities, all of them, to join hands with us as government as we continue with this process of transforming the heritage landscape. That exercise is an exercise of ensuring that the project of decoloniality is succeeding in our country. It is the responsibility of all of our local communities to raise the issue about the signs and symbols around them, that they must reflect what our country is and the kind of society we are building based on the founding principles of the Constitution of the Republic, which today we are celebrating 25 years of. The story of the continent that is transforming itself is one that we need to embrace, project, and work together to transmit, because in the words of great writer Ben Okri, and I quote him, "You can't remake the world without remaking yourself." Thank you so much for your attention, Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister. The next speaker is going to be Honorable N. Nchabele. Honorable Nchabele.
Thanks, Honorable Chair and leadership of the NCOP, honorable members, ministers and members of the Executive Council present, ladies and gentlemen. Chairperson, I'm introducing this debate under the theme, Developing and Promoting Indigenous Languages. Heritage is a critical aspect which holds the identity and history of a people and their evolution. Colonialism and apartheid have significantly impacted the heritage of Africa and South Africa. Interaction of people from different cultural backgrounds, languages, and countries have left an imprint on the continent and its people. Our heritage as South Africa is intrinsically connected with that of the continent and that of the people from the different colonial countries who divided Africa in 1884 and 1885 in the notorious Berlin Conference for their own national interests. This colonial conquest has imposed its culture, values, and language, amongst others. The evidence can be simply understood, Chairperson, through the fact that today in this debate, I speak in the English language. This does not mean that I cannot speak my own language, but colonialism disregarded our indigenous languages and ensured that their own culture was reinforced in order to erode our identity. This is done to perpetually position our language and culture as that of second-class citizens and not worthy to be language of learning, business, and communication. Another aspect of colonialism, Chair, is the fact that it also led to the theft of our knowledge and intellectual property as we currently describe it. Africa has experienced civilization with many kingdoms in the continent, building centers of learning such as the Timbuktu University in Mali. This history should be part of our education curriculum as part of the African Renaissance of restoring the stature and social standing of Africa and Africans. The call of the African National Congress that history be compulsory is important to ensure that all our children know their nation and its heritage and history. We cannot undo history, but we can try imagine how Africa will be without the imposition of colonial languages as mainstream languages. We probably will all know many languages, many different languages in order to communicate across different ethnicities. Today, Africa is also polarized politically, economically, and socially on the basis of language, which stems from the colonial origin. Hence, nations in Africa are also categorized as Anglophone, Francophone, whilst our neighboring country, Mozambique, speaks Portuguese. The critical question we should ask ourselves and seek to answer as a nation and continent is, how do we restore our African identity? And how do we empower our own cultures? How do we ensure the process of the African Renaissance finds expression in different facets of our human existence? Look at contribution of an integrated and coordinated heritage system, Chairperson. It is in this background, in which the creation of an integrated and coordinated heritage system should be in the center of promoting the indigenous knowledge system and indigenous languages. The current coronavirus pandemic has also brought to the fore critical issues around our indigenous knowledge system, particularly with medicinal knowledge. Some of the symptoms of the coronavirus can be treated or mitigated through the use of various organics or plants, which Africans have used for centuries. Some of these organics or plants are also used in so-called Western medicine as we know and use it today. The limitation in mainstreaming indigenous medicines is also due to the lack of system to test and certify these medicinal plants, which many South Africans still use. Systems and quality assurance are critical to create public awareness and to share the positive aspects of such plants, while also reducing the risks or side effects which can result from the uses of such remedies. Indigenous knowledge cuts across different social and economic aspects. However, due to the unregulated nature of indigenous knowledge system, our heritage and intellectual property are not protected, resulting in other exploiting such knowledge. As the African National Congress, we welcome the existence of the Indigenous Knowledge Systems Act, which the Department of Science and Innovation is implementing in order to promote the economic, social, and the political development in indigenous knowledge. This is a step in the right direction while we enable the recognition which will enable the recognition and renaissance of Africa. The democratic government has restored the status of all languages in South Africa through recognizing all languages as official languages and affirming their equality. The critical question we should ask ourselves is, how far have we gone in ensuring that all languages enjoy equal standing through their promotion? Even with the equality of all languages as enshrined in our Constitution, Chair, English continues to be dominant. The dominance of English as a mainstream language of business and communication reproduces the cultural and symbolic dominance of the legacy of colonialism. The impact of this dominance is that our indigenous languages will continuously be less spoken and taught. It is a fact that we have many South Africans who are African and cannot speak their indigenous languages. Children today grow up without learning their mother tongues. We encourage parents to teach their children their indigenous languages. At times, society conflates the use of English as an indicator of education or knowledge, whilst English is a medium of communication as our own languages are. We therefore need to promote our indigenous languages and promote multilingualism in this country. The diversity of our nation's languages should serve as a driver in unifying our nation. Learning a new language and speaking many languages enables citizens to communicate across racial and ethnic lines. Language helps us to explore each other's culture and thus connect people. Looking at fast-tracking the promotion and implementation of indigenous languages. Inequalities in language also reproduce inequalities, Chairperson, socially and economically. Research has proven that children in early childhood development and schools who use their home languages or indigenous languages perform better than those who need to first learn English as a means of beginning to acquire their education. Children who learn the basics in their home languages fare better than those who are forced to learn those basics in a new language, often English, simultaneously. Our provinces need to fast-track the promotion and implementation of indigenous language programs, including finalization of language legislation in provinces for inclusion in the school curriculum. Teaching children with their indigenous languages will improve their cognitive development and performance, which will improve education outcomes and enable the social transformation the ANC advances. A social transformation that empowers people to be their own liberators in creating a prosperous South Africa. As we continue to transform our society, we need to ensure that the education system addresses inequalities induced by language. We need to encourage our communities, particularly the youth, to take an interest in the various library exhibitions which are held across the country. Exhibitions are another form of narrating stories and history. Encouraging youth to take interest in exhibitions will also create an interest of reading and developing the love for books amongst the youth. The sixth administration in basic education has prioritized reading because of the high number of children who cannot read with meaning by the age of 10. This is so sad. This is due to the lack of a culture of reading in many homes, communities, and schools. This is also due to a lack of libraries in many of our rural and township areas. This is an anomaly which requires the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture and Basic Education, working with different social partners in civil society and the private sector, to all contribute in investing in libraries in our communities and in our schools. We commend organizations and social partners who support library initiatives to hold exhibitions in various communities. Looking at the importance of literature derived from oral tradition within African communities. Chairperson, we need to promote literature which is derived from oral tradition within African communities as part of creating a citizenry which is socially engaged. The literary sector is one that has its inequalities, but it also has a significant social impact on society. One of the legacies of colonialism and patriarchy is the dominance of literature, which mainly contain content produced by scholars from around the world and by men. It is important that we support our own creative sector and writers in particular. They are an important source of preserving our heritage and stories from local communities, writing their own experience and the stories of the people. In order to successfully grow the literature of South Africa, we need to develop a culture of reading and of telling our own stories. Honorable members, the recent July unrest has shown that our social fiber is fragile. The loss of lives in Phoenix and other areas in KwaZulu-Natal has displayed the level of tension amongst people from different communities and races. During this Heritage Month, we should appreciate the diversity of our nation and embrace our heritage. It is important to ensure that all the people of South Africa should appreciate the importance of forging a united society. Nation building and social cohesion are critical in addressing the inequalities in our country. We today have a democratic government elected by the majority of South Africans. Our heritage and being represents the struggle for liberation and the creation of equal opportunities for all South Africans. As South Africans, we need to deepen and strengthen our dedication to our South African heritage and nationhood. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. To be followed by Honorable Baga. Honorable Baga.
Thank you, Chairperson of the NCOP. Good afternoon to the ministers and the members of the House. Chairperson, this debate takes place when the country is at a critical time, battling with COVID-19 and its citizens are jobless. It happens at a time when 64.4% of our youth between 15 and 24 are currently unemployed, according to recent statistics by Stats SA. Some have lost their jobs in the middle of this pandemic due to poor government interventions and support to business to cope with the effects of COVID-19. Others have lost hope completely in finding employment that they do not even bother to go out and search for a job. All these individuals are now looking at government to provide them with a safety net to guarantee their livelihood in order to have something to eat. All this ANC government is able to do is grant them 350 rands instead of the jobs they promised over numerous election campaigns. Others have lost their lives and or loved ones due to the COVID-19 pandemic, while most are still scrambling for their livelihoods. This trauma-inducing situation for our country has led to people losing hope and not knowing what tomorrow brings. It should be noted that for many South Africans, it was a bleak situation long before the COVID-19 pandemic struck. The period we're in, where even those who have an income are finding it difficult to make ends meet, is indicative of the symptoms of a failing state and a desperate government that sells nothing but false hope to its citizens. It is a time when our artists are finding it difficult to make a living, while some are living large, reaping the benefits of their ill-gotten wealth. This thieving can be found at all levels of our government, with ministers fingered in tender kickbacks to officials entangled in messy irregularities. At this point, I would like to pause and pay homage to the whistleblower, Babita Deokaran, who was made for exposing the scandal on personal protective equipment in Gauteng. May her soul rest in eternal peace. May her murderers be brought to justice, and may those she was exposing rot in jail. Chairperson, South Africa is defined with a myriad of contradictions. Most of these find expression through poverty and inequality in our society. In a population of almost 60 million citizens, the majority remain hopeless, with nothing to show for their sacrifices for freedom other than the empty vitrine full of empty promises. While this conundrum is historic and largely by design, most of it can be blamed in the current government's failure to imagine the kind of a country South Africans really wanted to build for themselves. This is the same government that has had 27 years to change the fortunes of South Africans. Instead, it has stolen from them, massacred them, and lied to them. All this with the impunity of tyrants. Every year, municipalities, departments, and state-owned enterprises are battling to account for the resources South Africans entrust them with. The Auditor General, since the dawn of democracy, have been finding irregularities in their operations, giving qualified audits, at times not finding it worth their while to give an opinion at all. That is the depth of the rot in our system, while South Africans have faithfully entrusted the ANC with. When all else failed, when trust has finally been eroded and ground starting to swell under their feet, this government resorts to dividing South Africans on racial lines when our problem is systemic. We have a problem of a collapsing economy and a fractured system of government. We have a citizenry that has lost hope in the law enforcement agencies as women are murdered and chopped into pieces, stuffed into suitcases while living in conditions of squalor. What this government will do, hold press conferences with bravado without assuring them of any kind of intervention. With all this dismal failure of the state, we, however, can find solace in the richness of our heritage, that despite our diversity, reminds us that we are a people that have a common goal, that of building a united South Africa. History has taught us that the crime of apartheid and the horror of racism can be broken through the emergence of a responsive and compassionate government. Our government must stop looking at our society with a binary lens of rich and poor, black and white, rural and urban. We need a government that sees us all as assets in the growth of this country rather than enemies. One that harnesses the opportunity of our land and environment. One that elevates our heritage and celebrates our diversity. The imminent closure of an important and historic heritage site, Lilliesleaf, is one of the indications of the failures of this government. Many young South Africans do not know what this heritage site is about, and they will never know if it is closed. Another is the closure of the Mandela House in Vilakazi Street in Soweto. This is an indication and failure of the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture to do its work. We need a leadership that is upright, incorruptible, and visionary. Divisions, factionalism, and racism are a weakness. Our strength is our potential to build a prosperous economy, one that feeds our people, educates our children, and protects our citizenry. Our strength is our diversity. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very
Well
much.
done, Honorable.
We will then move on to Honorable F. Nkomonye. Honorable Nkomonye.
Thank you so much, Chairperson of the session. Good afternoon, Honorable Chair. Good afternoon to the honorable members of the NCOP, the ministers present in this session, the members of the Executive Council of Provinces, members of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I greet you all, honorable members, at the start of a spring season. Thina maXhosa ke siyibiza ngokuba intlakohlaza.
Yes,
A
because as
season,
we refer to it as the beginning of summer.
a season where there is rebirth and rejuvenation of ideas and renewal. We are hoping that as a country in this month, as we come from a season where we have seen looting, a season where we have seen a number of deaths due to COVID-19, we are hoping that as we begin this month and this season, we are going to see rebirth, restoration, and renewal. We are coming into this month as a province of the Eastern Cape, having a great honor, Honorable Chairperson, as the President declared this year as the year of Charlotte Maxeke, celebrating South Africa's intangible cultural heritage. We are grateful as a province because we gave birth to Charlotte Maxeke. So for us, this is a heritage that we pride ourselves. And we are not called the home of the legends for nothing. We are called the home of the legends because we are a province that is rich in culture, a province that is rich in heritage. Heritage that ensured that we make a significant contribution in the liberation of this country. If you want to look at the most fortified province in the whole country, you will have to come to the province of the Eastern Cape. And that is the heritage that we possess, and no one can ever take it away from us. We have seen a number of traditional leaders who waged serious wars and serious resilience towards the occupation of the land by the then colonial rule. So this is the province that Honorable Chairperson is very rich in terms of culture and history. And we are, as the province of the Eastern Cape, going to tell our story because we believe if we do not tell our story and only learn the story from those who colonized us, then that story is not a perfect story. That is not a full story. We ought to tell our story as the ones that were oppressed in the past. I just have spoken, Honorable Chairperson, about the fact that traditional leaders waged wars to protect our land. We know as humans and we know as Africans in particular that from birth, as people, particularly those of African descent, we are planted in our land. And those traditional leaders and political leaders who came after those traditional leaders waged a war to ensure that we remain intact with our land. And that is the fight we are still continuing today. So this year, Honorable Chairperson, as the province of the Eastern Cape, we will be commemorating the wars of resistance, starting with the war of Mlanjeni, which started in the 1850 until 1853, which is also known as the 8th War, which was the second last in terms of the resistance. and we will be doing that in collaboration with the House of Traditional Leaders, and the event will be done in Amatole district. And the focal point is to discuss the rich heritage and the impact that was made by those traditional leaders in the wars of dispossession. Another thing that we pride ourselves with, Honorable Chair, is the fact that as we commemorate Mamunchalo to Manyamatsege, we have as a province yesterday launched a musical that tells the story of who Charlotte Matsege was. Today, Honorable Chair, we are very grateful to continue to be making a contribution towards telling our story in terms of the heritage tourism. We are a beautiful province that is very rich in terms of tourism. If you look at the Garden Route, the Wild Coast, the many areas that I can pride the province about, if we combine that with the heritage, we can have a beautiful story of how our people were dispossessed of those beautiful areas. Honorable Chairperson, I just want to indicate that we have opened this month yesterday with a media launch of Masitete sign language, because our languages are also our heritage. And this year, we are focusing on the sign language, and just as I am speaking in this platform, there is an indaba that is going on, which speaks to the deaf community about the importance and the prevalence of the use of the South African Sign Language in this province. Furthermore, Honorable Chairperson, in our effort to promote the use of indigenous language, the province, in collaboration with the African Language Association of South Africa, will be hosting at the University of Fort Hare a conference, a language conference, on the 25th of November. As I have indicated, Honorable Chair, earlier on, that we are a province that has waged a lot of wars and has a lot of massacres. On the 7th of September, we will be commemorating the 29th anniversary of Bisho Massacre, where 28 protesters were gunned down by the apartheid police. There are a number of those massacres that we commemorate in this province, but also this year, this month, we will be commemorating the Northern Areas massacre that happened in here in Gqeberha. Honorable Chair, we are also utilizing this Heritage Month to promote our intangible heritage, cultural heritage. And today, the Nelson Mandela Bay Theatre Complex in Gqeberha is having a roundtable discussion on community art centers, so that we can find ways and strategies of preserving our heritage and culture. In conclusion, Honorable Chairperson, the province is fraught with serious crimes of gender-based violence and femicide, and we hope that all the stakeholders that have an important role to play in preserving and promotion of culture will assist us in fighting the scourge of gender-based violence by eliminating all the practices in our cultures that still continue to suppress the rights of women. With that, thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nkomonye. We will now move on to the next speaker, Honorable S.E. Lutuli. Honorable Lutuli.
Thank you, Chairperson, and Mbingelele wonke umuntu. Chairperson, South Africa has been praised for emerging in 1994 as a democratic state, which had overcome its racial past. However, even after the dismantle of apartheid, one still finds that 2 decades in democracy, South Africa remained a nation with fragmented citizenship. As access to economic resources as well as work opportunities remain largely based on race, gender, class, as well as geographic orientation. The results of which are being that certain sector in society, Black people in particular, have been left out from key aspects of citizenship. Such exclusion has followed through at all levels of society, leaving behind a deeply divided society. Chairperson, and even through progress has somehow been made on a legislative front, social exclusion still persists. As Black people in South Africa still do not benefit from the promises made in the Constitution. Chairperson, a society is considered united when inequality, exclusion, and differences based on ethnicity, gender, class, nationality, age, disability, or any other distinction which engender division, distrust, and conflicts are reduced or are eliminated in a planned and a sustained manner. In an attempt to create a shared sense of unity, there has been numerous alternative concepts that have been put forward by the ruling party as things that the population may rely under. This includes the flawed notion of non-racialism. However, racial division is a legacy which has proved difficult to shake off, and it still forms part of the contemporary lived experience in most South Africans. And even though South Africans no longer live accordingly to apartheid laws, the constructed identities of that era remains. Black families still live under the same condition which they live under apartheid, if not worse. Black family. One finds that even though South Africa developed a constitutional framework for a new political social order, all patterns have continued to prevail, which are held by one race over another, seem to continue. This in turn has undermined the efficiency of the constitution. Racial privilege still forms parts of daily narrative and can be seen in all areas of life, whether it be economic or social. Even though rights of freedom are guaranteed in the constitution, true freedom remains but an illusion. Poverty and social class in our society are racialized. Black people are still faced with a number of structural challenges which they still need to overcome. Black people stand as merely subjects in this country, instead of a full citizen, as the level of poverty enables them to make choices for upward social mobility. For example, the right to education is a constitutional right. The reality, however, is that the poor cannot fully exercise this right due to constraint of their circumstances. The majority of South African population still finds itself in a position where they are unable to enjoy the privileges that comes with being a citizen for a permanent and unemployed. Do not lay claims to land and still live in their conditions that mirror apartheid society. They have little or no access to land, lack of access to economic, cultural, and political resources. Many of our people still live in shacks and townships where living conditions are unsanitary, with a public health care in shambles, where state hospitals are understaffed and ill-equipped to handle the needs of the communities that they are supposed and meant to serve. Unemployment is on the increase, with a large number of graduates struggling to find employment, with the employment rates among youth being more than twice of adults each year. All this implies that even culture, language, and heritage is being contested in all sectors of society. For we have no heritage to speak of, because landless people cannot speak proudly about heritage. One also finds that citizenship is experienced differently depending on which side of the socio-economic spectrum one falls under. Citizenship is experienced differently by one living in a township in comparison to the one living in affluent suburb in the same metro. South Africa is not two nations. It is one capitalist country whose racialized capitalism place certain racial group at certain points of production with a capitalist system. Yet it is behind this backdrop that concepts such as non-racialism have been put forward as a unifying agent. Non-racialism is a policy that has been characterized by ruling party through its history, and it's an idea that there must be a certain of non-racial citizen in harmony society. However, concepts remains flawed as well, for we cannot escape our racialism reality. For every part of one's life as a citizen is experienced along racial lines. The process of true nation building requires respect for individuals' rights and values and appreciation of differences, as it is not enough that we only have key instrumental document outlining rights and duties of individuals. But what is also required is a lived experience which goes beyond and is more genuine than that. The reality which we are faced with a contemporary South Africa is that the Constitution has not achieved the kind of society which we wish to achieve. We have to find alternative ways of forging a genuine path of non-racial, non-sexist, united and prosperous democracy society that can only be done through the EFF. The values of the EFF through our non-negotiable 7 cardinal pillars have a way to building a united and prosperous society. For our true heritage can only be through owning of and expropriating of land and minerals for equitable redistribution through the nationalization of mines, banks, and other strategic sectors of our economy. What will assist in building a path to non-racialism will be when the majority of the people who are African own land and do not stand as outsiders in our own country, for we have no heritage to celebrate while we are poor, landless, and jobless. I thank you, Chairperson.
No, thank you very much, Honorable True.
Economic freedom in our land.
As HGS Mavimbela takes the platform, I now hand over to Honorable Ngwenya to take over the chairing.
Albongwe.
Honorable Ngwenya.
Gama lamakhosikazi.
Albonga masemshongi keza tena albongwe.
Order, honorable
Gama
members.
lamakhosikazi.
Honorable Mandela from KwaZulu Natal, MEC Art and Culture, Sports and Recreation.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Greetings.
Continue, member.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Greetings to the Honorable Ministers, the executive members, all the Honorable members in the House, and all the guests that are following us on the social platform. Honorable Chairperson, let me begin my contribution or debate by quoting the Preamble of South African National Heritage Resources Act of 1999, which states as follows, and I quote, "Our heritage is unique and precious, and it cannot be renewed. It helps us to define our cultural identity and therefore lies as the heart of our spiritual well-being and has the power to build our nation. It has the potential to affirm our diverse cultures and in so doing shape our national character. Our heritage celebrates our achievements and contributes to redressing past inequities. It educates, it deepens our understanding of society and encourages us to empathize with the experiences of others. It facilitates healing and material and symbolic restitution, and it promotes new and previously neglected research into our rich oral traditions and custom of reflection, discussion, and debate as regards what should be promoted, enjoyed, and conserved, or discarded and regretted, as well as learned from, in order to build on for the future what we have inherited from the past is a rich and complex mix of racial and ethnic groups. Our diversity runs across the racial spectrum, which is made largely of Africans, whites, Indian, and coloreds. A diverse society provides a greater opportunity for learning about and appreciating the value of human interaction and intercultural communication, as well as challenges of coexistence. Therefore, in dealing with issues of heritage, we have to explore and build creatively our visions of commonality and diversity, particularly when it comes to intangible items of heritage. In this respect, our task, among other things, entails promotion of unity alongside the respect of diversity and its correlative cultural expression. Ukuhlonishwa kwamagugu ethu anothile kubhekelelwe kumthethosisekelo waseNingizimu Afrika obeka ngokusobala ukuthi iNingizimu Afrika ingeyabo bonke abahlala kuyo, sibumbene nakuba singefani. Izingqalabutho zombuso wethu wentando yabantu zazazi kahle kamhlophe, abacindezeli kanye nombuso wobandlululo wasebenzisa wona amasiko namagugu ethu ukusehlukanisa. Nokho-ke kusukela ngonyaka we-1994 siqalile imizamo yokwakha isizwe esikwaziyo ukuthi yize nanoma sehlukene ngokwamagugu namasiko, kepha kumele sikusebenzise lokho kwehlukana kwethu ukukhuthaza ubumbano, ukuhlalisana kahle komphakathi kanye nokuguquko kwenhlalo nezomnotho emphakathini wethu. The recent incidents of unrest that engulf KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng exposed some of the fault lines that still exist in our society today, as they resulted in the emergence of the racial tensions in many of our communities. While these incidents cause a lot of pain and suffering, but we should see them as a wake-up call for us to work towards achieving the goals that we set for our democratic state, which is to use every available resource to create a better life for all our people. As we embark on a journey to rebuild, heal, and create a better inspired in order to ensure that we reignite the spark that set us on a path towards creating South Africa as a rainbow nation. Now it is up to us to help communities heal while at the same time create room for social cohesion, for communities to come together to ensure that there is peace and harmony. Both Black and Indians are capable of collectively attaining and embracing social cohesion despite the diversity ethnically and linguistically, just like Phoenix, which is also known as a colorful mythological bird that symbolizes rebirth, regeneration, and renewal, collaboratively understanding of what it means to live alongside other racial groups outside of their affiliation is needed in order to move forward. Now, as we begin a new month, rich with history, culture, and heritage, let us come together to embrace our diversity, learn each other's culture, and most importantly, let us teach our children to embrace different cultures in society, learn each other's culture and languages for us to see each really change in society. Honorable Chairperson, over the decades, KwaZulu-Natal has evolved into a multicultural society. In addition to the Zulu heritage, the province boasts of Afrikaner, English, Indian, Khoisan, Xhosa, and Soto cultural heritage. This unity of cultural heritage is a potential source of economic strength if properly harnessed. The Department of Art and Culture position is that KwaZulu-Natal is a cultural melting pot, and unity in diversity is its principal policy stance. The position of the department is that heritage sustainability can only be ensured through equal investing in all three cultural streams that contribute to the culture melting pot of KwaZulu-Natal. Historically marginalized cultural communities must not only be beneficiaries of the heritage policies, programs, schemes designed to improve their lives, but must be principal actors and agents in the heritage industry. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thanks very much, Honorable Member.
Masengsengi, siyabonga.
Thank you, Honorable Member Mavimbela. The next speaker is Honorable Titoit, FF+.
Agbare Voorsitter, what does it mean to be united in our diversity? South Africa has 11 official languages, 4 major ethnic groups, about 58.4 million inhabitants, 10 major religious beliefs, and one goal, survival. Chair, it's clear we're different values, different cultures, different prospects, and different beliefs. But what's lacking in South Africa? The one major thing that will solve a large percentage of our problems: respect. Respect for yourself, your culture, your religion, your family, your language, your ethnicity. Only when you have respect for this will you be able to respect others. Die HAT definieer erfenis as volg: eienskappe van 'n vorige geslag of tyd op 'n latere oorgedra. Voorsitter, daar word gesê dat erfenis die spieël van 'n nasie is. Ek staan vandag as 'n trotse Afrikaner, trots gewortel in Afrika, trots op wie en wat ek is, trots op my taal, pragtige Afrikaans, trots op my kultuur, volksliedere, die FAK, die HAT, Academia en Soltech, trots om deel van 'n groepering te wees wat Suid-Afrika ontwikkel het, inisiatief geneem het, leiding geneem het, uitvoering gegee het aan die woord van God, naamlik bewoon en bewerk die aarde, gaan heen en vermeerder. Watter taal kan die kreun van die rooi geroeste windpomp in die eilvlakte beter beskryf, omskryf, soos wat dit moeisaam verwese sy angel diep in moeder aarde se donker skatkamer steek, om getrou, gedwee, teen die tempo wat die wind bepaal, die soet lewegewende water na die oppervlakte trek, om die skurfgekraakte dors te les. My taal, Afrikaans. Voorouers wat ons geleer het van hulp verleen, hoflikheid, konfyt kook en vooruit beplan. My kultuur. Psalms, gesange en gebed, my geloof. Wees trots op wie en wat jy is. Chair, government is in the process to attempt to erase the existence of some of the cultures in South Africa in contrast to the preamble of the Constitution. Why, one may ask? Is it because there might be a culture of entitlement? Might it be a culture of envy, regret, revenge, or hate? If you're endlessly focused on the success of others, you will always stand in the shadow of their achievements. Suffering doesn't destroy faith, Jay, it refines it. I've said it before. Government might try to destroy our culture, our heritage, our achievements, but they will not succeed. Die regering sal nie daarin slaag om ons van ons kultuur en erfenis te ontneem nie. Dit bruis met trots in ons are. Die onderdrukkende uitsluitende viere van beperkende wetgewing en regulasies verfyn die geloof, versterk die gees en spoor uithou vermoë en 'n strewe na sukses aan. Die ongetemde drang om oorlewing, ten spyte van die onderdrukking, ten spyte van vooruitgang vir ons nageslagte, ter wille van vooruitgang van ons nageslagte. Solank as die ANC aanhou om te onderdruk, af te kraak en te lieg, sal die vlam van motivering, sukses en aanhou en oorwin al hoe hoër in ons harte brand. Heritage Month, a debate on being united in our diversity. Wit gepleisterde graf. You boast as if you care, as if there's no discrimination, no exclusion, and no expropriation from your side. Holding out a wilted olive branch. That is how we see you. That is who you are. Only when cultures find pride in themselves without disrespecting others, only when they do not blame the past, their shortcomings and failures, inabilities, lack of sense of achievement, only then, Chair, might they be able to thrive as a collective, contributing to their own heritage and that of the country. Die VF+ bring daarop aan dat daar gelyke geleenthede, gelyke bevordering en gelyke beskerming van alle kulture in Suid-Afrika moet wees. Soos by Magensfontein sal ons ten spyte van 'n oormag die goeie stryd stry, die geloof behou en met trots nederig die stryd deurvoer en oorwin. Dankie, voorsitter.
But you are very angry, man. You are very angry, man. You are going to take back that land, no matter how.
Honorable members, order.
Can the honorable member not be that angry? Thank you.
I'm asking point of order. Thanks, Honorable Detroit. The next speaker is Honorable Mahasela, Limpopo Chairperson, Sports, Art and Culture. Honorable Mahasela. Honorable Mahasela.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Continue, member. You can continue.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP. Honorable members, Honorable Minister of Sport, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, and all esteemed stakeholders and participants of this August interactive session. Honorable Chairperson, allow me to extend my word. It gives me great pleasure to be with you, of course, on an unusual platform, which is virtual. This does not mark a happy occasion, but a reminder of where we are today as a country. We enter the second day of September month, which is recognized countrywide as a Heritage Month. We, of our government, will strive much to greater heights and achievements. However, it is now becoming a norm of our gatherings to take place under extremely difficult circumstances that has been transmitted to us by nature. Amongst other objectives of our struggle today, it's a fight against notorious pandemic, which is COVID-19. Honorable Chairperson mentioned the word township in South Africa, and it immediately sparks mental images if they have not. The dichotomy 12. It is a term that often evokes images of underdevelopment and radically segregated areas. While this is still very much the truth, the township economies of the country will have to be a key focus of economic development going forward to overcome the persistent dichotomy between developed cities and towns and former border industry zones and feeder townships. We need to change townships from labor reserves, largely consumption-based, into productive hubs that attract investment. We need to use local labor to benefit local people. And lastly, we need to integrate townships as SMEs into formal value chains. Township economic provides a unique insight into township informal business and entrepreneurship, and the Deputy President, David Mabuza, when dealing with industrial parks, that they are at the center of growing township economies. A quarter, which is 24.35% of applicants' population of 47.6 largest township in the country, is a large proportion of the Limpopo population. Township from a Bantustan area economic contribution must grow from its current tiny share of gross regional product. To increase the number of sustainable entrepreneurs beyond the usual three-year mortality rate through interventions across the whole value chain of enterprise development, savings clubs and stokvels have substantial funds, and the majority are to be found in the township. Use potential consumption of the township population to create partnership that will convert the township from consumer outpost to productive centers. To achieve this, the government policy on promotion and support of township economy to be successful and have intended results, government needs to repurpose rundown factories in the township for manufacturing and agro-processing purposes. For example, Limpopo produces lots of agricultural products that leave this province unprocessed. Products like macadamia nuts, bananas, oranges, etc. These products can be processed in the province. They can also create jobs along the way and improve the standards of living in our townships. Tourism sectors. Limpopo is a unique cultural diversity, which attracts tourism from both local and foreign countries. This unique offering can be fused with our already buzzing nature-based tourism, improve economic activities in rural and townships. As I conclude, Honorable Chairperson, let us intensify the struggle for the second and most critical part of our struggle, economic freedom and the return of the land that was stolen from our foremothers and fathers. Let us, we also need to reverse the effect of 1913 Land Act. I repeat, we need to reverse the effect of 1913 Land Act, where Africans were dispossessed their land. We need our land back. We need to ensure proper land distribution and support those Black farmers who are given their land back. I thank you. Mushat.
We want to get our land.
Thanks very much, Honorable Member. Order. The next speaker is Honorable Ncube, ANC.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson, the Honorable Minister, and the Chief Whip of the Council. I think there is a general consensus that indeed the Black majority Africans in particular need to get their land back. Honorable House Chairperson, the debate brought forward this afternoon presents us with an opportunity to engage in a festival of ideas and outline our policy position and policy direction as the African National Congress. It gives us an opportunity to articulate how we intend on strengthening our national democratic society through the heritage, symbols, aspirations, and voice of the people. Our first point of departure is to acknowledge the protected process of change, which is continuously informed by the society and vision for our people at large. As our strategy and text document of 2017 outlines that a national democratic society constitutes the ideal state we aspire to as the ANC and the broad democratic movement. The vehicle to attaining this society is through the National Democratic Revolution, which ultimately seeks to build a society based on the best in human civilization in terms of political and human freedom, socio-economic rights, value systems, and identity. Our document third outlined that as with any nation, South Africa will continue to have multiple identities based on class, gender, age, language, geographical location, religion, and so on. In a national democratic society, such diversity should feed into an overreaching national identity. In its own unique way, South Africa should emerge as a united nation, should emerge as a united African nation, aiding to the diversity and identity of the continent and the humanity at large. Honorable House Chairperson, the country has long protracted history of oppression, subjugation, exclusion based on racial lines. The ANC has thus identified social cohesion as one of its key priorities to redressing past injustices and the development of those who were previously marginalized. Based on the 4 pillars, diversity, inclusiveness, access, and value, social cohesion is an effective tool to combating tribe challenges of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. When our first democratically elected government decided to place the nation's collective heritage, national symbols, and arts as a priority areas, we did so because we knew that our rich and varied cultural heritage has a profound power to help build our new nation. Honorable House Chairperson, the country cannot achieve unity and social cohesion without reducing the gaps between the rich and the poor, black and white, women and men, city and country. In doing this, it is necessary to recognize the historical obligation for redress to correct the wrong of the past and affirm the historical disadvantage. Without unity, the nation cannot hope to correct the wrong of the past. Without correcting the wrong of the past, unity would be superficial. Honorable House Chairperson, in the post-apartheid period, as the ANC, we have persisted in our determination to implement national democratic revolution. The NDR has, as its first national aspect, the struggle to overcome legacy of racial or national oppression of Black majority in general and Africans in particular. Its second national aspect refers to the task of nation building, the forging of actual material conditions for United Nations. In all of its diversity and forging a unified national system of governance whose character reflects the principles of clauses in the Freedom Charter. What is meant by social cohesion? On the other hand, it is often contested, but there is some consensus that social cohesion can be said to present in societies to the extent that societies are coherent, united, and functional, and provide an environment within which its citizens can flourish. In other words, social cohesion is what holds societies together. Freedom Charter and Constitution refer to what must be addressed to attain the ideal of national building and social cohesion. Both call of South Africa both call for South Africa belong to those who live in it, black and white. They affirm a nation united in diversity. This appears to be an ideal that most South Africans must continue to embrace. The national symbols such as national flag, an anthem, a coat of arms unite the people of our country and make them proud to be part of that country and all of its achievements. Honorable House Chair, the national flag of the Republic of South Africa was brought into use on Freedom Day, the 27th of April, 1994, as we were ushering our democracy. This unique design of the flag, which begins as a V, comes together the center of representation and convergence of diverse elements within South African society, which ultimately take the road ahead of unison. Similarly, the coat of arms was also launched on Freedom Day, but this was the year 2000. A central image of the coat of arms is the secretary bird with its uplifted wings. Above the bird is the rising sun, a force that gives life while representing the fight of the darkness and triumphs of discovery, knowledge and understanding of things that have been hidden, and illuminating the new life that is coming into being. Honorable House Chairperson, we need to remember patriotic symbols when we are faced with difficulties as a nation. During the month of July, some parts of our country were faced with unrest, which was characterized as violence, looting, and destruction of property. Nearly 300 people lost their lives during this period of unfortunate unrest. This has been the most severe unrest in more than part of the country since the ushering in of our new democratic dispensation. The ANC has made a clarion call on community organizations, the religious leaders, trade unions, business formations, NGOs, and broader civil society to join in condemning criminality, looting, wanton destruction of livelihoods and property. The events are engulfed our nation in July this year, ought to never to repeat again, whilst the unrest have brought to the fore many political, social, and economic issues, the tribe challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. We cannot speak about the above in the absence of embedding national pride and patriotism in our communities. Whilst the right to peaceful demonstration is enriched in the Constitution, we must remember that the right goes with a set of responsibilities and for a need to uphold the rule of law in all material times. At the core of these responsibilities is ensuring that we inculcate culture of patriotism and national pride in our people. While it can be argued that patriotism cannot solve our national problems, particularly the triple challenges that we are faced with, it cannot stop in unjust killings. It cannot abolish injustice, but we cannot realize the sublime ideals of national democratic society without patriotism. Honorable House Chairperson, in the absence of such, all we will have is a South Africa that is polarized with perpetuation of triple challenge. In the absence of patriotism, all we will have is a nation that is always reacting and never progressing. Without patriotism, we will lose the country, for we will have given up on the ideals of our forebears fought for and sacrificed their lives for. In conclusion, Honorable House Chairperson, imperative to realization of a diverse, socially cohesive society with a common national identity, as emphatically outlined in outcome 14 of the National Development Plan, will require every member of our community to spearhead and champion these imperatives in their respective corners and spaces. In each and every one of us must take up the task of social mobilization and strengthening the organs of people's power. Honorable House Chairperson, this is done with understanding that arts, culture, heritage, and symbolism are central to nation building. Thus, the promoting and preservation of cultural heritage symbols remains a paramount to this end. Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson.
Thanks very much, Honorable Member.
Malibongwe.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next speaker is a speaker from Gauteng MEC, Honorable Robben.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may just log off my camera so that it doesn't interrupt my ability to speak. Chairperson of the NCOP, Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, our Honorable Minister, Chairperson of the Sports, Arts, Culture and Recreation Portfolio Committee, Honorable members, distinguished guests. In receiving the Nobel Peace Prize on the 11th of December 1967, Chief Albert Luthuli made a compelling argument about the African Revolution. He gave a clarion call for a non-racial, non-sexist South Africa when he asserted our vision for a democratic state. A country that should uphold the rights of all who live in it, black and white. Honorable Chair, the recent racial tensions as witnessed in Phoenix are a stark reminder that our country still has a lot to do in order to resolve the national question. Since the dawn of our democratic society, we can account for much of the transformative agenda. However, the stubborn legacy of apartheid and colonization persists. As we celebrate 27 years of our democratic dispensation, this year's Heritage Month coincides with the celebration of the 150 years of Mam Charlotte Maxeke, a beacon of hope and inspiration for building a non-sexist society. A cultural activist who left our country as part of a choir, only to return back home as the first Black female to obtain a BSc degree. She further led the Women's March against the past laws and co-founded the Bantu Women's League in 1918, the Women's League which fought against past laws and aroused the discourse of gender equality. In celebrating Heritage Month, we must equally celebrate Mam Charlotte and pause and reflect on our heritage landscape and its critical actors, from whom we sit here today as descendants of. For in their veins and in our veins lie the blood of the heroes and heroines before us, whose yesteryear struggles form our reality today. The process, therefore, of protecting their memory is to indeed protect who we are and our common identity. Honorable Chair, the Gauteng heritage landscape is laden with narratives of our rich struggle history and our nation's unending pursuit for economic emancipation. These historical sites and roots must therefore serve a two-pronged agenda to raise our national consciousness of our socio-political struggle and also to serve as avenues for economic emancipation for the communities with which they reside. As such, our Gauteng province has embarked on a process of reviving these heritage roots to serve as catalysts and an enabler for transforming our urban spaces to revive our township economies. As the economic hub of the country and continent alike, we appreciate that economic emancipation must ripple to all corners of our province. Our heritage and culture must therefore aid us in this important task. So we, maybe like the likes of the United States of America and now of late Nigeria, who utilize our various platforms within the arts to heighten our work of consciousness raising whilst transferring our cultures to the globe, ensuring economic emancipation for those who are within. Nigeria, as an example, has used low-cost films as a way to impart their culture into the continent and globe alike. It is therefore not a coincidence that many within our own country even now adorn Nigerian attire and view it as beautiful. This is not a coincidence, but targeted, focused work the country is doing in ensuring they transmit their culture to the world. Learning from such examples and various others, our province in celebrating our heritage and culture is actively assisting our Mapiano artists to take over the world. Amapiano, as some may be aware, is a musical genre born in Gauteng and has taken over the nation and now the globe. As we speak and celebrate Heritage Month, some of our artists are currently in London to perform at the Fest and fly our national flag high. Working together with the High Commissioner in London, we'll be ensuring that whilst they're at that side, they take advantage of the many opportunities before them, but importantly, represent our nation. South Africa is a beautiful country, full of potential and great talent, and we ought to strive to do more in celebrating who we are, and importantly, transmitting that which makes us who we are to the globe. So we raise a nation of young people who see their greatness and seek not to be copies of others in other countries. There are many lessons we can give to the world. And above this is our ability of this great nation to foster social cohesion, even during difficult times when it was least expected of us. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thanks very much, Honourable Member. The next speaker is Honourable Christian, DA.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chairperson. Honourable House Chairperson, Honourable Members, Honourable South Africans. As we commence Heritage Month, it is important to remind each other of the importance of embracing our rich cultural diversity. South Africa has a sad past. Certain racial groups were disempowered. The color of your skin determined where you live, your quality of life, and your future prospects. It remains important to acknowledge this gross infraction of human rights so that history never repeats itself. As we continue to strive for unity, we must build a country which celebrates and protects diversity. While we were all raised in different homes by different families who sing different songs in different languages, who support different sports teams, who go to different churches, and who prefer different ways to braai, our hearts all beat to the same South African rhythm. Honourable House Chairperson, the vision of our country must include greater equality for women who continue to fight for equality in the workplace as well as in society. Our vision for a brighter future must include greater equality for the LGBTQIA+. Where government and every workplace dedicate their efforts to eliminating obstacles to equality, fighting discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender equality, and engaging previously marginalized women and the LGBTQIA+, most importantly, we need to fight against the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide, which continues unabated, while women, young girls, vulnerable girl children have to live in continued fear. Inequality still reverberates across all sectors of our economy and country. If it is to be adequately addressed, we need to invest in our schools as well as our communities. The only way South Africans will prosper is if government ensures fairness and opportunities for all South Africans. Government needs to find innovative solutions to ensuring opportunities for the millions of young people of all races who are without jobs and have no access to education. The COVID-19 pandemic has shown us that we need to invest in quality health services for Black, white, colored, and Indian communities so that we can all prosper together as a nation. At a time like this, when the country and world is dealing with loss, pain, and grief caused by a pandemic that has put a pause to our fast-paced lives, it is our collective culture, heritage, and shared responsibility that brings us closer together as a nation. Agbare voorsitter, een van die waardevolste erfstukke wat elkeen van ons moet koester en ten alle koste beskerm, is sonder twyfel ons grondwet. Hierdie grondwet is gegrond op die uitwissing van alle vorme van ras en seksistiese diskriminasie. Dit ag nie politieke of enkele persone as die hoogste gesag nie, maar beskou ons almal as gelykes. Dit is 'n grondwet wat van alle meerderjariges stemgeregtiges maak, sodat ons almal 'n keuse kan uitoefen in die land waarin ons woon en waaraan ons behoort. Inderdaad, dit is 'n grondwet wat aan elkeen van ons 'n gesamentlike erfposie gee en ons kulture en kultuurgeskiedenis, tale, diversiteit en verskillende erfenisse beskerm. Die erfenis van een groep is nie belangriker of kosbaarder as die erfenis van 'n ander groep nie. Honorable House Chairperson, it is now more important than ever before that the ANC government start taking tangible action to protect its citizens. The vulnerable in this country are tired of cheap talk. We need action. Protect our children, women, and the vulnerable. Build a social cohesive nation where we all have the same opportunities regardless of who we are and where we come from. After 27 years of democracy, Nelson Mandela's vision of a rainbow nation seems like a distant dream. However, the DA will not stop fighting for a non-racial, non-sexist society because we can never be free if we are not all regarded and treated equally. I thank you.
Thanks very much, Honorable Member. The next speaker is Honorable Ngwezi, Inkatha Freedom Party. Honorable Ngwezi.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson Dumande. The novelist and poet Chinua Achebe quoted an African proverb that says, and I quote, "When brothers fight to death, it is a stranger that inherits their father's estate," close quote, showing the extent to which no person benefits from violence and disharmony. As a nation, we are endowed with vast mineral and cultural wealth, with diverse races, tribes, creeds, languages, and landscapes, which held prospects for the symbolic rainbow nation to be realized. However, as South Africa that reflects hope as the nation, as the rainbow, is only possible if we are intentional about addressing challenges to achieving a democratic society, a society that is fair and anchored on the Constitution. We believe that the Constitution is an adequate vehicle and frame for reaching a prosperous South Africa. The pillars of our democracy, such as accountability and equality, can and must ensure that all South Africans are treated equally in the society, political and economic systems, regardless of their color. However, one cannot turn a blind eye to the past, a history that is marked by inequality and segregation. In light of our history, it is extremely important to implement policies that redress long existing inequalities effectively so that unity is enhanced. The path to constructing a non-racial, non-sexist, and democratic society is challenged by virulent corruption, nepotism, and racial superiority, which is against equality. But these challenges are not permanent, Honorable House Chairperson. Reverting to our democratic principles and constitutionalism will ensure that a human rights and people-centered approach is followed, and it is through this that existing controversies can be redressed. Although we have faced numerous challenges as a nation, it is in the same way that we can conquer and thrive. It is as a nation without any race or tribe being preferentially treated or any gender being discriminated against. A prosperous and a democratic South Africa must and will be created not by any external forces, but by South Africans themselves. Finally, Honorable House Chairperson, the late great Ubaba Uvusamazulu Credo Mucha said, and I quote, "A country that speaks against its heritage is a dead country," close quote. Our diversity must not be used as an impediment to unity and prosperity. It is and must always be an enabler. Thank you very much, House Chairperson.
Thanks very much, Honorable Member. The next speaker is Councillor J. Sidel from Salga.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson, Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP,
Honorable Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Honorable Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, our Honorable MECs that are connected on the platform, Honorable Chief Whip of the NCOP, Honorable House Chairpersons, Honorable Permanent and Special Delegates, kindly receive greetings from the SALGA National Executive Committee and the local government sector. This year's Heritage Month is celebrated under the theme, The Year of Charlotte Maxeke, celebrating South Africa's intangible cultural heritage. Heritage Month recognizes and celebrates aspects of the South African heritage and culture, which are both tangible and intangible. These are creative expressions such as music and performances, our historical inheritance, languages, the food we eat, popular memory values, and indigenous knowledge. On this year of Charlotte Maxeke, celebrating 150 years of her birth, a very remarkable leader of her time, who kicked down many doors of injustice and prejudice. This is our heritage and a national pride. Honorable House Chairperson, for the purposes of this debate, the theme, United in Our Diversity and Rich Cultural Heritage, the path to constructing a non-racial, non-sexist, united and prosperous democratic society, suggests a recognition and appreciation of our colorful diversity as reflected in our diverse cultural, religious, language, racial, and ethnic heritage. This should never have been allowed to divide us as a people, and we will always reflect to the historic, painful legacy that has sought to subjugate and undermine cultural heritage, beliefs, and knowledge systems of some, while promoting and enforcing others' cultures, religious beliefs, and heritage. In the construction of a non-racial, non-sexist, united and prosperous society, respect and appreciation of all our diverse heritage should be embedded in our educational system, our daily conversations, our acknowledgement of each other as equals and worthy of existence in all that defines as a people. The spirit of Ubuntu unites us and should be made as a true value that would underpin our unity in diversity. Local government has an opportunity to use cultural heritage as an instrument to drive social cohesion. Cultural heritage is central to protecting our sense of who we are. It gives us an irrefutable connection to the past, to certain social values, beliefs, customs, and traditions that allows us to identify ourselves with others and deepen our sense of unity, belonging, and national pride. It is important to preserve our cultural heritage because it keeps our integrity as a people. The importance of intangible cultural heritage is not the cultural manifestation itself, but rather the wealth of knowledge and skills that is transmitted through it from one generation to the next. In addition to its intrinsic value, culture provides important social and economic benefits. With improved learning and health, increased tolerance, and opportunities to come together with others, culture enhances quality of life and increases overall well-being for both individuals and community. Advancing cultural heritage tourism is important for various reasons, one of which is the promotion of social and economic development. Cultural heritage tourism has a positive economic and social impact. It establishes and reinforces identity. It helps preserve the cultural heritage with culture as an instrument. It facilitates harmony and understanding amongst people. It supports culture and helps renew tourism. Respecting both similarities and differences in others opens doors to many opportunities. Cultural diversity helps us recognize and respect ways of being that are not necessarily our own. As people from diverse cultures contribute language skills, new ways of thinking, a new knowledge, and different experiences emerge. Language is one of the most important aspects of any culture. It is the way through which people communicate with one another, build relationships, and create a sense of community. The role of culture in encouraging the involvement of communities and community organizations in the matters of local government cannot be contested. Sustainability of heritage resources cannot be achieved without the direct involvement of local community. The physical state of resources is directly connected to the local community participation. If heritage is respected, used, and managed by locals, it has better chances to be restored and protected, and social cohesion is achieved. Heritage tourism also promotes community pride by allowing people to work together to enhance economic and cultural development through distinct community opportunities. Studies show that travelers are more eager to visit places with a more strong community identity. The role of local government in celebrating South Africa's diversity and cultural heritage cannot be overemphasized. Municipalities provide the stepping stones that will definitely pave the path to constructing a non-racial, non-sexist, united and a prosperous democratic society. I thank you, Honorable House Chairperson.
Thanks, Honorable Member. The next speaker is
Chair.
Honorable. Yes, Chair.
May I please address you?
Hello?
May I please address you, Chair?
Yes, sir.
Ngicela ukwazi uba intoni bangatsho laba ukuba libongwe apha. Kanti kubongwa kanjani amagama?
Ngishilo ngithe malibonge mayithini ungabi
Order, Honorable Member.
Ngiyabongwa ke Eli.
Order, sebaphendulile baba. Can we continue, honorable members? The next speaker is Honorable D. Fanny's, Northern Cape, MEC, Sports, Art, and Culture.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Deputy Chairperson, Honorable Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture, Honorable Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities, Honorable Deputy Ministers, Honorable House Chairpersons, Honorable Members of the Executive Committees, Honorable Permanent and Special Delegates to the NCOP, the President of SALGA. Good afternoon. Honorable House Chairperson, the celebration of Heritage Month affords us as government a strong opportunity to make inroads in our mandate to bring together South African communities to appreciate and celebrate our diverse and rich cultural heritage. Honorable House Chairperson, as we continue, allow me to refer to an article titled The Native Union, which was written by Pixley Isaka Seme in 1911. There is today among all races and men a general desire for progress and for cooperation, because cooperation will facilitate and secure that progress. This iconic African intellectual of our liberation struggle continued to say, the greatest success shall come when men shall have learned to cooperate, not only with his own kith and kin, but also with all people and with all life. These words also spoke of a vision of the kind of society we seek to build. The struggle which was fought for has a rich and diverse history and has produced many heroes and heroines to whom this year's Heritage Month celebrations are dedicated. One of those heroines is Ma Charlotte Mutshekga. Our history abounds with selfless patriots who paved the way for a democratic and free South Africa. The year 2021 marks the 150th anniversary of a struggle icon and human rights campaigner, Umama Charlotte Mutshekga. She and other selfless women of her generation fought against oppression at a time when such defiance was met with unrelenting force and brutality. As we navigate through this difficult period, we dare not forget those who sacrificed everything for us to be free. Through their sacrifices, we now live in a country which recognizes women as equal citizens with equal rights and responsibilities. Honorable House Chairperson, the South African heritage is one whose ingredients are found in the many cultures that have contributed to it. As a nation, we are unique and at the same time, fortunate to be the custodians of such a diversity of cultures. As citizens, we must make it a priority to learn about each other's cultures and languages in order to be tolerant and understanding, thereby contributing to nation building in a positive way. Where ignorance prevails, intolerance and suspicion will find root. We have to stand guard over our heritage, which is under threat from forces that seek to drive a wedge between different race groups through misinformation and by creating suspicion. Celebrating our heritage should not be something that happens only during this month. It must be something that is on our minds every time we rise to sing the national anthem. National pride must prevail every time any of our national sport teams take to the field, and it must be displayed at public events. Honorable House Chairperson, our languages and indigenous African knowledge systems, customs and traditions, amongst others, must continue to exist. We must define our heritage as the dreams of our visionaries, leaders, and intellectuals who went before us. As we are gathered here today, it is very important for us to draw a distinction between history and heritage. The two terms are misunderstood, confused, and sometimes used interchangeably. History is the remembrance, recording or account of everything that has happened in the past. But not all history is heritage. For heritage is the principles, ideals, personalities, and institutions that we consciously select to transmit from the past because they have helped move us forward. We cannot consider the history of language oppression and exclusion of fellow human beings as part of our heritage. Thus, we choose to define our heritage as visionary pronouncements that have helped us move forward, as envisioned by that great son of the soil, Pixley Kaseme, in his award-winning oratory work in 1996 on the regeneration of Africa and the call he made for the unity of Africans in October 1911, amongst others. Honorable House Chairperson, in this House sitting, we must ask ourselves whether national celebrations like Heritage Day have ever been successful in uniting our people across the dividends of gender, religion, language, race, age, and income level. Honorable House Chairperson, in conclusion, Heritage Month is one that should unite and not divide South Africans. Our unity cannot be a unity that seeks to destroy diversity, but might highlight and celebrate the diversity of our people. Our culture and heritage is indeed the pride of our nation, and such symbolism is a strong force for unity. Lastly, social cohesion and nation building will forever seem an elusive and moving target, while the divide between the rich and the poor ever grows wider with every passing day. Social cohesion cannot be a judgment. It has to be built. I thank you, House Chairperson.
Thanks very much, Honorable Member. Honorable members, allow me to invite House Chairperson Jane Nyambi to take over. Malibong Ngena Baba.
Chairperson of the session, I'm rising on a point of order. May I address you? Let me just put it that way. Why is this Malibongwe set to other provinces and other provinces to enjoy Malibongwe?
You can give them the Malibongwe if you like. No one stops anyone from doing that.
It's an ANC slogan. Actually, it's an ANC slogan. I'm not ANC.
Hey, Makause, what's your
There is nothing ANC about let us
It's
praise our women.
factions. It's
Yeah,
factions.
now
It's
invite
factions. It's factions. The factions are very clear now.
You are missing home. That's all. You are missing home.
No, we
You
are not
missing
missing home. He's telling the truth.
Bye bye.
Honorable Nyambi. Honorable Nyambi.
He's sleeping. He's sleeping. That one.
Okay, we can continue. The next speaker, honorable member, is Honorable R. Ellen. R. Ellen.
Honorable House Chairperson and members of the NCOP, fellow South Africans. Democratic South Africa was forged out of the flames of oppression, discrimination, and division. Our heroes fought to liberate us from racial hatred fueled by societal dominance. It is them that we celebrate when we think of our heritage. They remind us of the hope that remains even in the midst of tremendous adversity. Chairperson, we again face adversity, this time in the form of an invisible enemy, a worldwide pandemic. COVID-19 has brought with its new challenges, new villains, and new heroes. We fight against an oppressor that knows no race, gender, or class. Our liberation now, like before, is dependent on our collective resilience. Chairperson, the Western Cape government has worked tirelessly to support residents during this time. Almost 2 million people have been vaccinated in the Western Cape, thanks to the efficient vaccine rollout program, including the tremendous work done by MEC Noma French Umbombo. We understand that the vaccinated population is the quickest and most effective way of saving the lives and livelihoods of the people we serve. The Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport in the Western Cape has played its part in supporting the vaccination process. Most recently, the department offered free access to affiliated provincial museums for vaccinated individuals to celebrate Heritage Month. Respecting our heritage, Chairperson, comes from celebrating our diversity. Not every resident is the same, and they have different needs. To this end, we have set up 27 mini libraries across the country, across the province for visually impaired residents. These libraries help those with limited literacy skills or disabilities, such as dyslexia, to access literature resources for their benefit. Chairperson, we believe that the inclusivity demonstrated through these initiatives is necessary to construct a non-racial, non-sexist, united, and prosperous society. We are not only an inclusive government, but a trustworthy one too. We are the only province without outstanding invoices at the end of the last financial year. This can be contrasted to the 4 billion rand in outstanding invoices for other provinces. The Western Cape government pays its debts on time. Chairperson, trust in government has a long history here in South Africa. Our marred past is important to remember, not to rehash old wounds, but to understand who we are today, where we are headed, and how to learn as public representatives and to serve residents to the best of our abilities. This is why we must fiercely protect our cultural artifacts and heritage sites. They are a significant part of our legacy as a nation. Chairperson, however, I am deeply concerned by the ANC national government in not giving real meaning to this belief. We see this most clearly at the Robben Island Museum. Chairperson, through you to Minister Nathi Ntetwa, the ANC has failed in its capacity as custodians. It has been described by ex-political prisoners association members as dying a slow death. This can't happen to Robben Island, the island where Nelson Mandela spent a huge part of his life fighting for liberation. Chairperson, corruption and mismanagement and neglect has battered this once world-class museum. In line with the principle of transparent governance, we ask the National Minister to reveal the results of an investigative report on this matter. He evaded accountability behind so-called legal reasons. Chairperson, this report was ordered in 2018. Since then, 2 reports were finalized that implicated 2 senior officials. The Department of Arts and Culture claimed that they could not make the results public after the investigation due to an ongoing disciplinary action. It has been 3 years and neither these reports nor their summary reports have been provided. This excuse has long since lost its credibility, much like the department itself. Chairperson, national government's neglect of the museum is disheartening as we have done everything in our power to help them. Firstly, the Western Cape government, we have listed the Robben Island prison landscape on the resistance and liberation heritage route. This is an ongoing project aimed at taking cognizance of significant sites connected to our country's resistance and liberation heritage. We hope that this will increase the prominence within the local and global community and maintain the esteemed reputation of the museum. We have conducted a site visit with representatives of the National Heritage Council as well as heritage consultants to identify potential maintenance and conservation initiatives for the island. We have stepped up in order to help national government identify the issues at hand in the hope that they will start taking the maintenance of the island seriously. Chairperson, this museum, like many others, is integral to the path of constructing a non-racial, non-sexist, united and prosperous democratic society. Preserving a political prison that incarcerated Nelson Mandela and other national heroes is important as it serves to warn of the dangers of racism, discrimination and hatred. It is also a reminder to our people that we are not victims of our circumstances.
All right, can you stop, honorable member? Let's hear the point of order.
I'll bring a substantive motion on the issue of the Robben Island because now it's no longer about us, cuts and culture. It's about casting aspersion on the minister in terms of how he deals with the issue around Robben Island. Thank you.
Honorable member, can you please continue?
Thank you so much, Chairperson. It also reminds our people that we are not victims of our circumstances, Chairperson, that a political prisoner today can be celebrated as a leader today and tomorrow. It is a message of hope in trying times, not unlike the present. Maintaining our cultural heritage is necessary for protecting cultural diversity. It helps foster social inclusion and encourages mutual respect and nation building. This is why we hold national government accountable for its failures, Chairperson. It is not simply a case of rundown buildings. In this case, it's the erosion and neglect of the institutions that we overcame on our journey to hard-won democracy. Something held dear in the hearts of many, many South Africans. We owe it to our heroes who fought for our liberation, our democracy, and the new beginning. Their sacrifices paved the way for our society today. House Chairperson, we do our best to make them proud by continually prioritizing our people, running efficient vaccination processes and programs, creating jobs, and delivering on our promises. We encourage the ANC to follow in the footsteps of the Western Cape government by committing themselves to cleaner, more transparent governance at the national level. If not that, then at the very least, they can do is preserve the legacies of our heroes and maintain our museums. I thank you.
Thanks very much, honorable member. The next speaker is Minister in the Presidency of Women, Youth, Persons with Disability, Honorable M. Nkwane Mashabane.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Honorable Deputy Chair, Chief Whip, Honorable Chairs of Committees, Honorable MECs from our respective provinces, Honorable President of SALGA, good afternoon. We are gathered here this afternoon to celebrate our heritage under the theme, United in Our Diversity, our rich cultural heritage, the path to constructing non-racial, non-sexist, united and prosperous democratic South Africa. Malibongwe igama lamakhosikazi. As we meet here and celebrate the diversity that is in us, we are also proudly and openly say, yesterday we were the skunk of the world. Today we are the darling of all peace-loving people around the world. We have gone through the West and we never, ever had to go back there. We have survived apartheid. We will survive COVID-19. We should also survive gender-based violence and femicide. Diversity in our culture remains also part of our history. Our history tells us stories of traditions, struggles, resistance, achievements, victories, and it is through shared histories that we celebrate our pride, resilience, diversities, and shared connection through our communities. We can claim Me, Mahomu, Manya, Charlotte, Makweke, as we share in the Eastern Cape, as we do claim in Limpopo, as Mwanamanya. She is buried in Johannesburg. So she is a daughter of South Africa. The first, if she was still alive, would have been the first South African after 126 years, who would have come home then with a black person, woman, to attain a science degree. So when we say Malibongwe, we say it with guts, and we know that you strike a woman, you strike a rock. We have just concluded the month of August, which was supposed to be a month of jubilation as South Africans from all walks of life. Remember that as we were fighting apartheid, we were also fighting triple oppression that subjugated a Black woman. But lo and behold, I do not know how many women died in the hands of those who supposed to protect, love them, and make sure that they also celebrate that which we have. We will continue with all peace-loving men and women, not only to celebrate South African women, but to make sure that women and girls and all people and people living with disabilities and all other people, South Africans who don't look like me and you, feel very much at home in South Africa. Our country's heritage continues to shape and influence our social values and norms, which can be interpreted positively. This includes the spirit of Ubuntu, which is central to our country's nation building and developmental agenda. The practice of Ubuntu is central to ensuring the full realization of all who live in South Africa and beyond. However, we are still confronted with cultural practices that are harmful in nature. These cultural practices inform social norms and values that reinforce gender inequality in social relations with women being most disadvantaged. Many of these social norms and values have led to violent behavior that has become destructive to human dignity and freedom. We have just concluded the Women's Month, which we will not conclude. We will celebrate our women every day, as I said, even as you go through 16 days of activism, even as you go through this month of September, we will continue to celebrate our womenhood with all our progressive men and protect girl children and people living, people who are not necessarily looking like Maite and the chair. The tragic reality that women of all ages continue to be stripped of their right to human dignity and freedom and untimely right to life. The prevalence of gender-based violence and femicide is a consequence of interplay of patriarchal cultural practices, the bad ones, and values and negative masculine constructs. Reinforcing patriarchal social norms and values condone the domination of men over women. This unhealthy gender social relations results in a high prevalence of intimate partner violence. This form of violence is experienced in marital, intimate dating, and domestic relationships. Many women in South Africa continue to suffer from intimate partner violence, like the recent murder of Nasitelo Mtebeni. I was at that home yesterday in Matatiele. It's heart-wrenching. A law student of the University of Soweto who was murdered allegedly by somebody who was supposed to love her. Yet another woman is stripped of their dignity and right to life at the hands of someone they should trust. Honorable Chair, gender hierarchy and normative roles of the masculine and feminine in most South African cultures has implications in full eradication of gender-based violence and femicide in our country. Therefore, as we look at Pillar 2 of the National Strategic Plan, it seeks to address the range of risk factors that drive gender-based violence and contribute towards the normalization of violence, such as cultural beliefs and practices. It prioritizes change behavior and social norms across key social groups, including men, to internalize alternative, healthier masculinity and embrace other gender and sexual identities. In addition to Pillar 2, recognizes the importance of collective heritage of the country, which is also characterized by a violent past. Therefore, the National Strategic Plan of the Gender-Based Violence seeks to address the collective traumas of apartheid and colonialism. Honorable members, this is central to the process of restoring human dignity and building caring communities. Caring communities must be able to address how cultures of ethnic and identity-specific communities maintain destructive social norms and values, such as condone violence in our communities and homes. Culture continues to influence how gender-based violence is viewed. Many of our cultures are dominated by patriarchal, negative patriarchal ideologies that reduces gender-based violence and femicide to an accidental problem. This set is a dangerous precedent, and it often negatively influences accountability to and reduces it to convenient explanations by communities. It is for this reason that agency is needed and implementation of the NSP of the GBVF. This plan is a 10-year framework that provides a coordinated and cross-sectional response to eradicating the scourge in our country. We can continue to build a South Africa that we are all very proud of, including the people who live with, who are LGBTIQA, who are members of our communities. They are our children, they are our brothers and sisters, and together with them, we should fight and win this fight, this war against gender-based violence, this COVID-19, and all as we did fight and win against apartheid. Let's continue celebrating the Heritage Month with dignity that May Mahomu Charlotte Manye Makeke would have loved us to, and as well as Dr. Nelson Mandela and Winnie Mandela and many others heroes and heroines. Let us rebuild a safer South Africa for all, young and old. Malibongwe Gamalamba Koskas.
Malibongwe.
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 Thanks, honorable member. Honorable members, the next speaker.
Kamala Makusiga.
DA, Honorable Okam.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair, Honorable Ministers, Honorable Members and fellow South Africans. As a nation, we celebrate our heritage in order to recognize and to honor our nation's cultural wealth, as well as our history within the framework of our different backgrounds. We have such a rich and diverse heritage, which means a lot to us as a nation, a heritage that we all need to cherish. Although we as a proud nation want to celebrate our heritage, it is very difficult to do so when the future of our people is looking very bleak. Honorable House Chair, why would people that are living in poverty want to celebrate their heritage if all that they can think of is how to survive and put food on their tables? How can we expect our people to concentrate on celebrating their heritage when they constantly have to try to keep themselves and their families safe from crime that is constantly growing in our country? How can we expect to build a non-sexist society and ask women to celebrate their heritage when women constantly live in fear in a country where gender-based violence is amongst the highest in the world? How can we celebrate our heritage when we have a government that through their draconian BBBEE policies discriminates against people and even went so far as to disqualify them from receiving certain COVID-19 relief funding because they belong to a certain race group? How can we expect our people to celebrate our heritage when they are constantly exposed to poor service delivery brought about by an incompetent government, cadre deployment, and corruption? Honorable House Chair, all of what I have now mentioned is issues that are counterproductive with regards to us celebrating our heritage and uniting the people of South Africa. If we as a rainbow nation are serious about creating a path towards a non-racial, non-sexist, united and prosperous democratic society, we need to concentrate on what we have in common instead of being constantly reminded about our differences. Honorable Chairperson, what all of our people have in common is the desire to live in a country that is governed in such a way that unemployment decreases instead of the continuous rising thereof, currently the highest in the world. We all want our children to obtain a decent mother tongue education and don't want anyone to discriminate against the language that we speak. We are all united in our desire to live in a society where our crime rate is not constantly soaring. We all want to live in a corruption-free society where service delivery is at the forefront and not the self-enrichment of the political elite, as is so very often seen. We all want the women of our country to be safe from abuse and for women to be able to participate in the growth of our country. We as South Africans are united in our longing for a government with integrity. Honorable Chairperson, without achieving these common ideals, we will never be successful in creating a united and prosperous democratic society. Our heritage will mean absolutely nothing if we continue to have an incompetent and corruption-riddled government that does not put the united needs of our people first. If we are serious about celebrating our heritage, we need to be serious about bettering the lives and creating a prosperous future for all of our people. In achieving these goals, we will, in our diversity, come together to unite as a nation in order to celebrate our unique and rich cultural history and to embark on a road that will help us all to prosper. Honorable Chairperson, the legacy that we must leave behind, as well as the future that we must build for our children, is as important as celebrating our heritage. As is stated in the preamble of our Constitution, the Democratic Alliance firmly believes that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity. Let us therefore not continue to implement measures and policies that will divide us. Let us rather come together and triumph as a nation by celebrating what unites us through the pursuit of our common desire for safety, prosperity, and a country where we can live in and feel free, which is provided by a good and honest government, a government that will lead us in such a way that we will not only celebrate our heritage, but that we will also be able to celebrate our future. Honorable Chairperson, the type of government that only the Democratic Alliance will be able to provide. I thank you.
Thanks very much, Honorable Member.
We are taking back the land, Honorable Ocamp. We are starting with your farm back in Kuruma.
Order, Member Kause. Honorable members, the next speaker is Honorable M. Gillion, ANC.
Honorable House Chair, Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Ministers, Deputy Ministers, all MECs present, representative of SALGA, all permanent delegates, honorable members, I am pleased to be giving this speech in celebration of the Heritage Month under the theme, The Significance of Culture and Heritage in Creating a National Democratic Society. Honorable House Chair, and this month we celebrate the rich and diverse cultural traditions and heritage that has been passed down to us by our forefathers and fallen stalwarts. The African National Congress prides itself in the main aims of the National Democratic Revolution, the Freedom Charter, which the mass democratic movement advances in creating a non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and prosperous South Africa. Our history has no blank pages, and it is important that we celebrate diverse cultures and the living heritage which is expressed in our traditions and histories. 27 years into democracy, the African National Congress has done tremendous work and still is working towards building the nation and social cohesion. South Africa carries a legacy of indigenous livelihoods, such as the Khoisan, as well as Bantu immigration, slavery, colonialism, settler economies, and liberation movements. These histories have all had a drastic effect in shaping South Africa's population. Yet somehow, through the interchange of cultures and sharing of cultural influences. In the age of globalization, there definitely remains space to further engage on the importance of heritage sites, museums, archives, cultural projects to contextualize the South African heritage. Honorable House Chairperson, while the Honorable Member of the Western Cape are making a very long speech about Robben Island, I want to remind him about the cultural land of the Khoisan people, which this indigenous people are fighting a battle in court with the Western Cape government. And that heritage site is called the River Club, the land at the River Club. So the Khoisan people is still suffering at the hands of a government in the Western Cape. To address the importance of heritage and culture, acknowledging that in a country like South Africa, there is not one heritage or an easily defined set of distinct identities. The cultures, languages, and heritages of South Africa are multiple, diverse, and dynamic. The intersectional issues of gender, ethnicity, and race further complicate the matter of identity and make it highly inadvisable to categorize the different people contained within South Africa's borders. This is especially true in the wake of segregationist as the apartheid policies, which attempted to divide and conquer the majority of the country's population by emphasizing the non-mix of different races. Thus, the social, psychological, and geographical elements of apartheid continue to shape the lives and outlook of many South Africans. Honorable members, the promotion and investments into museums, archives, cultural sites is of importance because museums, heritage sites have the capacity to enhance social cohesion. Despite the positive strides post-1994, the South African society remains divided. This is because the privilege attached to race, gender, and class has not fully been addressed. The quest for national building and social cohesion as one of the National Development Plan imperatives, focusing on museums, heritage sites, and other memorials served communities by stimulating dialogue on different historical issues that shape the context of our country and accurately representing all the people of the nation. Today, we have different museums and heritage sites, just to mention a few. The Apartheid Museum, Anglo-Boer, Hector Peterson, District 6 Museum, the Cradle of Humankind, Robben Island, Mapungu Kubewe heritage sites has woven the implementation of the NDP to enhance and ensure that ideals of its existence reflect in our heritage landscapes. This is why the transformation of the heritage landscape is important. In light of the triple challenge of poverty, unemployment, and inequality, the implementation of the National Heritage Resource Act should contribute towards the elimination of poverty and reduction of unemployment and inequality by 2030. Moreover, in order to transform and build the nation, the government, through a multidimensional approach, inclusive of a social compact with business, government, labor, and civil society, should work together to bring about future change and development. It will reaffirm the importance of freedom, peace, and security as well as the respect for all human rights as embedded in our Constitution. This social compact will promote national unity, cohesion, and nation building. Honorable members, in taking forward the NDP, it is clear that exclusion and lack of opportunities does undermine the social cohesion in our country, and we still have a momentum task. Heritage is about embracing diversity and ensuring that we advance constitutional democracy, human rights, and equality, and also promoting non-sexism, non-racialism, equality, and human solidarity to build unity among South Africans. The region, continent, international community, and encourage rebuilding, rehabilitating of individuals and communities. The recent unrest that took place in KwaZulu-Natal highlighted racial tensions in Phoenix. As the ANC, we condemn such acts of violence. As a country, we have fought for the freedom and the creation of a rainbow nation that see no race, class, or color. Social cohesion requires great focus and attention in our country to ensure that effective frameworks are implemented to advance government interventions to reignite a social cohesive nation for socio-economic development. Nurturing a more cohesive society is an important policy goal in itself for any country. Honorable House Chair, change is constant, whilst there is a widespread agreement that social cohesion influences economic and social development, and that nurturing a more cohesive society is an important policy goal to promote a more cohesive society. This is the aim of the NDP in advancing a national democratic society, which advocates the need for such a compact, given the socio-historical divisions across society, especially along racial and ethnic lines, which still persist. Honorable members, as we celebrate the Heritage Month, we are still in celebration of the year of a pioneer, struggle icon, and human rights campaigner, Mama Charlotte Makeke, who epitomed the values of the NDP in forging national building and social cohesion. She was a brave and dedicated stalwart who made an incredible impact in many areas, including education, faith, and politics. The history of women and their participation in the formation of this country has been about engaging in the liberation struggle and the fight against women inequality. The fight against gender-based violence and femicide in our country must be intensified to rid our country from the awful unequal disparities, rape and killing of young girls and women. Our government, under the auspices and leadership of Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Minister Natim Tetwa, has activated the annual program of action with one of the strategic interventions that promotes social cohesion and nation building. And the program will be anchored around Mama Charlotte Makeke. The liberation of our country cannot be complete when the majority of our national population, which is women, is still confined to the margins of mainstream economy and society because of disempowerment, violence, poverty, and lack of access to resources. We as women cannot claim to be free from oppression when we read daily in newspapers, media articles of horrendous killing of women and children in our country. The history of women of this country and their contribution is incomplete without the story of Mama Charlotte Makeke. the personification of women's struggles against deprivation of basic human rights, dignity, education, employment opportunities, and property ownership. Our heritage should also awaken the silent history of women. We must forge the social compact that will lead to a meaningful inclusion of the diversity of our nation in the arts, culture, and heritage landscape. In the same breath, throughout the history of arts, culture, sports, women have often been represented as a subject rather than the creative force behind the work. However, they have continually played an important role in supporting their male counterparts and helping them to achieve stellar careers. As we come to the end of Women's Month, we celebrate strides of female artists and sportswomen gaining recognition. As a result, we are seeing an increase in the number of women participating in the arts. This is a good contribution to transform a male-dominated sector. The arts sector is an important contributor towards the culture and identity construction of any country. Our priority as government is to create safe spaces and communities for full participation of women, the girl child, the LGBTQIA+ communities, people with disabilities, and youth in sports, arts, and culture. Social cohesion and safe communities will contribute to the economic development of our country and creating a life for all. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thanks very much. Honorable. Thank you very much. Order, order.
I can see that this one belongs to the faction, the ruling faction.
Honorable members, let me continue with our list. Honorable members, allow me to invite Honorable Deputy Chair, Mama Sylvia Lucas, to invite Honorable N. Mtetwa, Minister Sports, Art and Culture. Mama Sylvia.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, House Chairperson. Good afternoon once again to everyone. Let us then now call on the Honorable Minister to conclude the debate on the, on heritage. Honorable Minister Nati Mtetwa.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. Thanks to all members with their contribution. It's a very important matter of heritage. Firstly, Honorable Nchabeling raises a very important matter of indigenous languages. And I must say that English and Afrikaans developed because there were resources put there, both at the level of education, which is bursary, but also with monuments and museums, which have made that possible. As a department, every year we ensure that we give bursary to students, 400 students across the provinces and in almost all institutions of higher learning in this country. We also take very seriously the issue of research and development, particularly in this area. In Makanda, there is a museum which was established in 1972 called the National English Literary Museum. We said that because it's located where 80% of people speak isiXhosa, the content must change, and the content has changed. So is the name of the museum. It's now Amazwi South African Museum of Literature. This is one way of ensuring that indigenous languages are supported. Also, Chair, I want to raise the issue, to respond to Honorable Baha. Honorable Baha, we all know the difficult situation of artists in particular and their lives during this period. But I want to say to you, we said right from the beginning that the government will not have enough resources to cater for them. But this very department within this period, we have given 642.9 million rands to artists and athletes in this period, benefiting 63,343 of them, with 40,000 jobs created. In fact, we surpassed the National Treasury, which thought that will create 30,000 jobs. Now, I also want to deal with the issue of Lily's Leaf. Lily's Leaf, we support it. Lily's Leaf is us. Lily's Leaf is our heritage. That is why this government, over a period of time, has invested 70 million to Lily's Leaf, and we have been funding Lily's Leaf up until 2015, when Lily's Leaf could not account for 8.1 million rands. I think you were, perhaps we were not connected at the time when we explained. We actually cannot give more when you have not accounted. PFMA, Section 38 of PFMA, enjoins us to ensure that people account for the money. So it's not about neglect of Lily's Leaf. Honorable Allen, talking about the Robben Island, one issue about Robben Island you got correctly is the maintenance of Robben Island, and we're also worried about it. And you know that that's the task of public works and infrastructure. And we've agreed with Minister Delil that how about we taking over the maintenance of this very important institution of our people, because we believe that if we do that, we'll be able to maintain the Robben Island. The issue about the release of the report, I think we're a bit ahead of yourself, Honorable Member Allen. You just have to hold your horses a bit. I can't release any report because that is the purview of the board of Robben Island. They are the ones who are going to, and they will release a report, and it's going to be shared with everybody else. And the issue of management and leadership there, the process is finalized. They have finalized the appointment of the CEO, and they will do that. So it's important sometimes when people engage, they engage from the position of knowledge, of information, because you know, when you don't have information, sometimes you say things you don't understand. We have been hard at work to ensure that the heritage of our country is transformed. The unity we're talking about is going to be achieved if all of us agree and understand the imperative of transformation in this country. It's not us who are reflecting on this thing of racism. You just have to listen to former players of cricket to understand that this is a pernicious, painful ideology which make people, young people who are athletes, who are artists, but cannot be able to achieve their goals simply because they are held by the people in their midst who are racist. And you can't say, if that happens, you turn a blind eye. You have to confront it. But thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to members until we meet again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all the members that participated in the debate. Honorable members, can we get order now? Thank you very much to all the members that participated in the debate, in particularly the ministers, the deputy ministers, if any, as well as the special delegates, the MECs from the provinces that participated in this debate. Honorable delegates, we will now proceed to the order of the day. It is a consideration of report of Select Committee on Land Reform, Environment, Mineral Resources and Energy, on the ATC of 16 March, page 46, legislation relating to the draft norms and standards for the trophy hunting of leopards in South Africa, developed in terms of of section 8.3 of the NEMBA 2004 Act number 10, read with section 146.6 of the Constitution, which requires that all subordinate legislation issued under the Act which affect provinces will. And we will now call on the Honorable Tebogo Modise Chairperson of the Select Committee, to present the committee report. Over to you, Honorable Modise.
A ke go leboge motlatsamodulasetulo, ke lemoge go nna teng ga matona le batlatsa matona, ke lemoge go nna teng ga modulasetulo wa ntlo ya di-province ka kakaretso, motlatsi wa gagwe, seme segolo sa rona rre, le ba diri ka nna batlotlegi botlhe, kemedi go tswa ko di-municipaleng, bakhuduthamaga botlhe. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, let me report on the report of Select Committee on Land Reform, Environment, Mineral and Energy, on the legislation relating to the draft norms and standards for the trophy hunting of the leopard in South Africa. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, the committee invited all 9 legislatures to attend its briefing session on the 3rd of November 2020, where the Department of Environment, Forestry and Fishery briefed the committee, and all legislatures were present on the draft norms and standards. The department explained that the draft norms and standards was being drafted to assist scientific authorities in determining and preventing excessive hunting by local and international concern, as well as determine whether the current hunting pressure has detrimental impact on the survival of the specific on the wild. The committee thereafter requested the provincial legislature to consult with the respective provinces in order to ascertain whether the proposed amendment to the above mentioned norms and standards as presented by the department were in conflict with the provincial legislation. Provincial legislature held further engagement with the department on the matter, as well as call for the public comments. During the provincial public engagement, the following recommendations were made: the needs for effective, efficient public education being before publication of the norms and standards. The affected community must be briefed about the challenges and opportunities of the Act and simplification of technical information. Lack of compliance by numbers of hunters be addressed. Establish an incentive-based system on phase-out damage control animal. Landowners shall be incentivized to conserve and not to destroy leopard. Sport hunting is the best scheme for incentive landowners. The zero quota has initiated illegal activities to determine of the illegal regulated hunting, promoting serious law and enforcement in action to neutralize legal trade in the leopard skin, taking into account cultural and religious tradition of South Africa. Honorable Deputy Chair, as you know that the leopard skin is used by our traditional leaders. The maintenance of the register to keep track of the number of hunting license granted, issue for any specific leopard hunting zone. The Select Committee on Land Reform, Environment, Mineral Resource and Energy, having considered the matter on the subordinated legislation submitted by the department in terms of Section 8, subsection 3 of the National Environment Management Biodiversity Act 2004, Act number 10 of 2004, refer to it on the 7th of September 2020. Reports that the committee has concluded its deliberation on the matter and recommended the approval of the subordinated legislation. I therefore thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Modise. Thank you, Honorable Delegates. I will now put the question, and that is that the report be adopted. But before we proceed to the voting, I shall allow the provinces the opportunity to make the declarations of vote in terms of Rules 71, if they so wish. Any province that wish to make a declaration will be allowed now. KwaZulu-Natal. Honorable Bibi.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, I stand on behalf of the African National Congress and declare support for the report of the Select Committee on Land Reform, Environment, Mineral Resources and Energy on legislation relating to the draft of norms and standards for the trophy hunting of leopards in South Africa. The National Environmental Management Act Biodiversity provides for the comprehensive management and protection of the country biodiversity, protection of species and ecosystems, and sustainable use of indigenous biological resources, amongst others. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, one of the challenges faced by the constitutional democratic government after 1994 was the alignment of the provincial legislation with national legislation, as well as the enhancement of the work of Parliament through meaningful public participation. Deputy Chairperson, before the enactment of the 1994 Constitution, provinces had legislative authority to come up with provincial legislation or legislative ordinances that relates to the management of provincial nature reserves and the protection of wildlife within those reserves. And this would include wildlife sport and trophy hunting, and promulgation of NEMBA sought to bring the much needed policy and legislative alignment. Honorable members, leopard is one of the big 5 animals in South Africa and are a great source of foreign currency attraction through our viable tourism sector. Deputy Chairperson, over the years, there has been considerably interest in trophy hunting of leopards. Just as in the case with trophy hunting of lions, leopards are now an endangered species. But we, honorable members, have legislation that deals proactively with endangered wildlife animals. And there are a number of civil society organizations and other stakeholders who are doing a tremendous job ensuring that our animals are protected and there is sustainable use of environmental and preservation of generation. As the ANC, we take note of the recommendation made by the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, and Environment
As you conclude,
with regards of the involvement of the stakeholders in the Department of Norms and Standards. in order to avoid unnecessary amendments. This speaks directly to the public participation process, a very important constitutional requirement in legislative formulation. I thank you, Deputy Chairperson Mama.
Thank you very much, Honorable Bibi. Thank you, Mama. We will continue. And I will now just to cast the votes. When called upon, heads of delegations must indicate whether they vote in favor, against, or abstain. And we will start with the Eastern Cape.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. The Eastern
Eastern
Cape. Hello. Hello.
Thank you very much, Free State. Thank you very much, Eastern Cape. Free State. You are audible. Free State. Free State. Is it me or is it the provinces? Am I audible?
We can hear you, Chair.
Yes, Chair, we are so audible. It's Free State now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Chair. The Free State support the report.
Thank you, Honorable Mushodi. Gauteng.
Gauteng supports the report, Chairperson.
Discuss that in the Free State caucus, please. Thank you, Gauteng. KwaZulu-Natal.
KwaZulu-Natal iyaseka sekela star report.
Oh, Mama.
Siyabonga, Limpopo.
Honorable Deputy Chairperson, my apologies. Free State is in favor of the report. Thanks.
Thank you, Mushodi already responded.
Mara, you can't vote twice. You can't vote twice. You people are sleeping.
Limpopo.
Limpopo supports the report, Deputy Chair.
Okay. I just wanted to ask because I see Ngwezi, I don't know when he moved to Limpopo. Mpumalanga. Sounded like you. Mpumalanga. Order.
Mpumalanga support the report.
Thank you, Mpumalanga. Northern Cape.
Northern Cape support the report, Honorable Deputy Chair.
Baie dankie, North Cape, Northwest.
They are busy fighting each other.
Northwest.
Other support.
Thank you. Northwest have supported Western Cape.
Die Weskaap ondersteun die verslag.
Baie dankie. Voting is now closed. All provinces have voted in favor of this amendment bill. I therefore declare the report adopted, or this protocol. I therefore declare the report adopted in accordance with Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable members, delegates, let me once again appreciate the fact that all of us were really during this week attending all of the business of NCOP so diligently. And we also want to thank our special delegates, particularly the ministers, the deputy ministers, MECs, and other special delegates in different capacities, as well as our members from SALGA. We want to express our appreciation to all of you. This concludes the business of the day. For the permanent delegates, you are also, we also appreciate your presence, and we also express our gratitude to you for your hard work. I'm sorry, it seems as if we forget about the permanent delegates, those that are working so hard to make sure that the NCOP function properly. That concludes the business of the day. Honorable members, I think tomorrow I don't have NCOP work, so enjoy your weekend until we see again, God willing. Goodbye.
Thank you, Mama.
The house is adjourned.
Thank you, Mama.
Malimbongwe.
Thank you, Mama. Love you, Mama.
Hawu, angisole ngokuzwa buhlungu.
I love you, Mama.
Anisole nokuzwa kubuhlungu.
I love you, Mama.
Lenza into zabantwana abancane
Recording
alisole
stopped.
nokuzwa kubuhlungu.
Uyahalela mzamai.
Unesikwele mama.
Mzamai unesikwele.
Kenny.
Love you. Love you. Love you.
I love you too.
Love you.
All right, my loving. I
Okay,
want
my
to close. Mbona
Hayi
wena
man.
ngomkhosi.
Sikhomisa mabathu.
Nami ngumkhozi.
Angazi ngomkhosi.
Yes. Kenny.
Thank
Hello.
you. Mzamai.
Nkosi.
Hello.
Umkhosi wena.
Unesikhwara wena.
Ngikhuluma nonkosi.
Mina ngikhuluma nawe. Wena ukhuluma
How?
nonkosi, ngikhuluma nawe.
Wena ukhuluma nonkosi Mtsamai.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Nkosi Mtsamai uyahamba.
Thank you, advocate.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mlatsane, Honorable Mutsamai. Okay, all members are gone. Madam?
Yes, they are.